Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's special edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosarge, joined by my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, this will be our 2023 Senior Bowl recap show. And for those that watched last night when I was on mute, this is why I saved every bit of my voice I had for the radio broadcast today that was streaming on the iHeartRadio app for those that got that today. My voice was low for most of the game, but it's kind of started to go on me in the third quarter. So it's about where it was at now.
Look, I thought you did well. I don't think people who didn't know that you lost your voice would have known from listening to it. I was happy. Finally, I was able to listen to you call it. You did a good job. So, next year I'll be pumping that out more now that I know it's not just local. So that was awesome. Game was fun. It was not the worst Senior Bowl game I've ever seen, and probably isn't in my bottom 5, to be honest. So that's always a good sign, ultimately.
At least it wasn't all field goals.
Right. We had some scored. We had some defense. It was a nice little mix of everything, which to me is more fun when you don't get kind of god-awful play. And we'll kind of break it down on this pod.
So for those newer listeners, I do not smoke 2 packs a day. I promise. Let's get into the game. Shane, Jake Haener, MVP. I joked on Twitter that I hope he shared his big trophy cup full of Reese's with Michael Wilson, the wide receiver from Stanford, because his bailing him out on that lame duck throw he had at the end of the game and getting the touchdown is what got Jake Haener this MVP award, no doubt in my mind.
Right. I mean, it was a real bad underthrow. Luckily, Jay Ward was nowhere close to Michael Wilson, who could come back and get it pretty easily and then score the touchdown. There are games where the MVP, I'm like, I don't think they played that great. I think this was another one. Jake Haener had some nice passes, but he had some bad decisions and some inaccurate passes as well. We knew this quarterback group wasn't going to be great. I don't think any of them were great in this game. Jake Haener was the best of the group coming in, was the best leaving, right? Like, he's going to be the top highest drafted quarterback from this group. So I don't know. I probably would have rather the MVP gone to Michael Wilson, to be honest with you.
I'll say this about the quarterback group. We don't have to talk a whole lot about it because it wasn't flashy. But I thought when in rhythm today, Tyson Bagent looked good when he was able to get in a rhythm, but they kept calling screen passes for him, and that's quite obviously not in his wheelhouse at all. Probably not something he ever did at Shepherd, and it showed in this game. But like I said, when he got in that 2-minute offense and he was able to start humming the ball down the field, I thought he did a good job for himself. But he had that was a bad interception there, right there inside the 5 to Jacorian Bennett, the corner from Maryland, local product of Mobile, who had an interception in front of the home fans there. So, but yeah, Haener, probably so. Definitely the best of the 5 quarterbacks that played in this game. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other quarterback that didn't play in this game here in a minute. I'm going to get into all that. But Max Duggan looked rough and then had the play that the fumble came on. He tripped. I can't remember. I didn't see who tripped him.
Lonnie Phelps.
Who was it?
Lonnie Phelps, the edge out of Kansas.
So it wasn't one of his linemen. I thought he tripped over one of his own linemen.
Not that I saw, but I may have missed that as well. So,
but as he was falling down, he tried to hand the ball off to Chris Rodriguez, the running back from Kentucky, who never got a grasp on the ball, and then Dayon Henley recovered the fumble. So,
no, you're right. He did trip on his lineman. It was Lonnie Phelps is kind of who forced the fumble because Rodriguez still kind of got it and then just didn't secure it enough and have enough time to secure it. But that play. I liked your comment on the radio. That play was all a mess. Everything from the beginning to the end.
It was completely screwed from the beginning. Clayton Tune, he wasn't asked to do much. 9 completions, 70 yards, longest 15 yards. He didn't push the ball down the field a lot when he was in the game. And,
At all. I mean, him and Hayner early were just checking the ball down so much, and it's like, what? We know you can do that. I mean, like you said, Tyson Bagent took some chances and paid for it. Yeah, had the one interception, had the one that got called back, the interception. But Clayton
yeah,
Tune, more than anyone else, just didn't do anything that I didn't know you couldn't do. Like try to throw the ball down the field sometimes. I don't even mind Max Duggan on some of the plays. He got sacked. He held the ball too long because he was looking downfield. He was like, I'm not checking it down. And I would almost rather that than what Clayton Tune did.
we're not going to say a whole lot about Malik Cunningham because it's not really worth talking about. But he did have a pick six in this game, and I do want to talk about that because that was an awesome story. Anthony Johnson, the corner from Virginia, with the pick six, but it confused us in the booth a little bit because he was wearing number 15 and was wearing a different name on the back plate. It didn't dawn on me until after the fact that he was wearing the Senior Bowl allowed him to wear a jersey number and the name of his teammate that was gunned down earlier this year in that tragedy at Virginia where 3 players were shot and killed. So that was pretty awesome and a good story. And he kept the ball. And, I hope that is a good moment for him and that player's family.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see him honor, his friend and get the pick six and have that big play wearing that jersey. Like, it's awesome. And then, good on Anthony Johnson. It was not a good pass by Malik Cunningham, but a good play by Anthony Johnson for sure.
Yeah, it was no doubt. It was a no doubter once he got his hands on the ball.
Right.
that was a TD. Let's talk about the running game, but we can't talk about that without talking about the offensive line play today, especially on the national team. And those interior guys, man, they were killing it. Oluwatimi, the center from Michigan, Jake Andrews from Troy was in there, Cody Mock, North Dakota State, Asim Richards, North Carolina. I'm missing some guys I know, but those guys were killing it up front all day today. And Evan Hull, the running back, averaging 7.4 yards a carry. As a team, they ran for 182 yards. It's more than that if you take out Hayner's sack numbers. So it was just an awesome day from that offensive front and the run game.
It was, and I think, like you said, the national team did well. I think the American, the American offensive line also played well in the game. So guys like Tyler Steen, who played left guard, I thought he had a pretty good game. Darnell Wright, the tackle from Tennessee, was a little bit up and down, but you had a really nice start. And then, you had the John Michael Schmitz, Osiris Torrance. We talked about that combo on the podcast, and they were stonewalling the defensive line on the other side for a lot of the game on that side. And even Nick Saldivari, the Old Dominion tackle playing center, that he did really, really well in the game for someone that had never taken snaps at center before. And, we've talked on the podcast, Jim Nagy mentioned that he'd be a starting NFL center someday. We were trying to guess months ago, who it was. So I was impressed with both offensive lines on both sides.
I'll say this, the only really bad offensive line rep I saw, like egregious in the game, was from McClendon Curtis when he was playing right tackle, and he just got smoked by Ali Gay, the edge rusher from LSU, on a big – and Hayner took a shot on that play.
Yeah, and it was weird because McClendon Curtis started at guard. He started the game at guard. I thought he played great, and then once they put him at right tackle, it was not good. So I think that tells you what you need to know about where he'll be for his NFL career.
Well, there was a reason for that, Shane, and we're going to talk about that later. But
yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there. There's a reason why he was having to play out in right tackle because the numbers got thin. The tight ends today, I thought they might try to push the ball to Musgrave a little more down the field, but he only really caught 2 check down passes. I was a little disappointed in that, to be honest. But you would think Will Mallory was Tyson Bagent's roommate or something this week Uh, Will Mallory caught 5 passes for 46 yards, the tight end from Miami in this game, and all 5 came in a 2-drive span from Tyson Bagent.
Yeah, which is impressive. I thought the tight ends in general played well. Like you said, Will Mallory, that connection seemed to work. I don't know if they had that connection in practice or what was happening, but Mallory showed some athleticism, was kind of interesting. Luke Musgrave did have one of his catches was really nice, finding the hole in the zone. It was a perfect play. Got some yards after the catch, fell forwards. Like that's what I want him to do in the NFL. It's one play. We have one game to kind of showcase all these players. And then Payne Durham, the tight end from Purdue, had a really great game. Probably should have had a touchdown, was super close on Malik Cunningham, kind of wobbly pass that he went up and caught and tried to make it in. Good blocking. He ran the football once. So Payne Durham's definitely one player who's probably moved up my board maybe the most in my tight end rankings this week, more than anyone in terms of just a positional move up.
Yeah, I know he was one of the guys that when we saw him invited, we were kind of like, there's better guys, right? And he showed himself well this week for sure. Oh, Cameron Latu, he caught a couple of nice balls as well.
Good tight end group. I mean, offensive line, tight end, and it showed in the game.
They stretched the ball down to Jaden Reed once in this game. How about Sir Roderick Thompson? The running back for Texas Tech gets on the plane, comes in 2 days of practice, 7 yards of carry in this game on 5 carries, showed himself well. But the guy I felt bad for? Cameron Peoples, the running back from App State. Back-to-back plays, drop passes, and they weren't hard passes to catch, Shane.
No. One screen pass, 2-yarder, and then wide open. They were tipped a little bit, but it was in his hands. Like it was rough. I think he had a rough game. He showed some toughness running the football late in the game. They had him running up the middle, doing what he actually does well, right? Which was good. But yeah, that was I felt bad for Cameron.
Actually, he had 1 carry in this game, and that was it. 1 carry,
okay.
15 yards, 1 carry. Maybe we should have gave him the ball more. I don't know.
Instead of throwing it to him, just handing it to him.
Obviously, receiving is not his game. We talked about Michael Wilson. What catch radius on this guy, man? Where were we at on Michael Wilson before this week, Shane? I know he's going on up my board for sure. I can't speak for you, but he was really good in practice this week. And then he was the main receiver that stood out in this game, basically because he's the only one that showed up.
I mean, he's definitely moved up because I thought, okay, here's a blocking kind of receiver. They didn't use him much at Stanford. But man, he was impressive, big, long, and was doing it in the game too. Like you said, it's one thing at practice, which is the most important. He's really good, but sometimes, and you've been to a lot of these, Brian, those practice players don't show up in the game. They don't do much. What happened to this guy? But Michael Wilson, like I said, I think he should have been the MVP. He was probably the best player there. So he's moving up my board. And when we redo our boards here on the site in a week or two, I think it's going to be tough to decide, like, does he go above some of these receivers who maybe did well at the Senior Bowl, but not as well? Jonathan Mingo, Dontavian Wicks. I think trying to compare some of these will be interesting for me to have that thought exercise.
I think he's it's like I hate that we go from one to the other, but it's like you want to have to defer to the combine. It's like, what is Michael Wilson going to run? I know he's a big guy and he's got a great catch radius, but he did separate well during the practices. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like I feel like he's got some speed, right? But he missed a lot of games this year, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right. He did miss time with an injury and had been pretty kind of inconsistent getting on the field and doing a ton at Stanford as well. So it's so maybe this is what he needed this offseason, the Senior Bowl. And if he does well at the combine, then you're saying, well, maybe it's a better pro player than college player for Michael Wilson.
Hey, let's trash some special teams guys right quick because I'm feeling salty. Feeling salty, Shane. Hey, Bryce Behringer, he punted the ball one time for 47 yards. He's safe. The long snappers are safe. Adam Corsick, the punter from Rutgers, who I believe is one of them Aussie punters, right?
Yeah.
During the game introductions, his voice sounded different than everybody else's, so I assumed that to be the case. He had a nice shankaroo in an all-star game, punted the ball 17 yards. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Go back
well,
home.
he got one inside the 5 as well, so you got to give
Whatever.
him both of those at least.
Whatever. Chad Ryland kicked 5 field goals today, which is just sad in its own right. But the only one from. Did you see the one from 50 plus yards?
Yeah.
That ball starts going like the ball's not supposed to go like that.
They're not supposed to move that way.
Not that way.
So
but I'll tell you what, he hammered the hell out of it. That ball was good from 70 if he didn't kick it sideways. I don't know what happened there. It was like a soccer kick or something.
It was strange.
But 4 or 5 on his field goals, missed his 50-yarder. Jack Puzzlesny, 1 of 2 on field goals, missed a 30-yard field. How do you miss a 30-yard field goal when nobody's rushing at you?
Yeah, that's my that's my question with Jake Puzzlesny, because he'll miss those easy ones. Like you miss a 50+ yarder, all right, but you can have a big leg, but you can't miss the 30.
He hit a 57-yard field goal in practice on Thursday.
Right. He has the leg
and misses a 30-yard field goal. Give me a break.
Tough.
Kickers are terrible people.
That's fine. I wrote off Cameron Dicker after last year, and he had a good rookie season. So
let's go to the defense, Shane. Only the 1 interception in the game. Oh, sorry, 2 interceptions in the game. The one we talked about, the 1 pick 6 earlier by Anthony Johnson. And Jacorian Bennett, we talked about him with his interception. 4 solo tackles for Bennett today. I know you were high on Bennett coming into this week. Looked like he was playing more nickel today. Maybe even some safety out there.
Yeah, which might end up being a pretty good spot for him to play kind of a nickel safety hybrid, a Brian Branch, type of role. Because they put him on the outside at Maryland. He's a physical player, so I think he could play safety. Made some good tackles in the game too. Jacorian Bennett did. So there was one really good one, Tajay Spears, in the second half where he wrapped him up. I thought Spears might have been able to get out of it. So I kind of like that role for Bennett. I think it might hurt him in the draft, where you don't feel good about putting him outside. Is he a bigger nickel corner? That could be tough. So only certain teams might be interested.
A guy who flashed to me on the radio broadcast, and we talked about him a good bit. Only 2 tackles, but the 1 sack. Carl Brooks, Bowling Green, man, he flashed big time today, showing getting in the backfield often. It felt like.
Yeah, he got the sack on the Max Duggan 10-second hold of the ball, but he was getting in the backfield. So I agree with you. Sometimes in this game, in every game, college games, the stat sheet isn't what's gonna sell you. Carl Brooks, I think, had one of those games here, so I think it definitely gets him drafted.
The leading tackler in the game was Ivan Pace Jr. from Cincinnati. We've talked about he's a bit undersized, but he has a nose for the football for sure. 9 solo tackles in this game, man.
He had a really interesting game because there were points early where I was like, oh, he's kind of behind. He's not reacting quite fast enough. But then, boom, he would close on the runner very quickly and make a big play. He was flying around the ball. And my favorite play that Ivan Pace had was Cyrus Torrance was going to the second level, and Pace knocked him backwards, hip checked him right in the ground, right in the running back, made the tackle basically as Cyrus Torrance tackled him for him.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty awesome. I mean, he had to be giving up 100 pounds.
yeah.
So Cyrus, no fear. You got to like that. A linebacker, I am just extremely through the roof for now, and you've been on him for a little while. Deion Henley, great game, 8 tackles, 3 solos, had the fumble recovery we talked about, but his ability to cover backs, and he might even be able to carry tight ends. I think he's that skilled of a cover man, the way he played in practice this week. I'm a big stock up on Deion Henley.
Yeah, man. I mean, he feels like an inside linebacker that could have 100 tackles in the NFL and still cover the tight ends and make a play in coverage here and there. Um, yeah, I was trying to think of like, man, like who does he kind of remind me of? And I know he's not quite as big, but maybe your boy on the Bengals, Logan Wilson, like this guy that can just cover ground, go back in coverage, make a big play here, and clean up those tackles with good technique, but still, challenging you. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, Nick Hampton from Appalachian State got a sack, but we don't really count that one
Yep,
because
right, fair.
I can't remember who the quarterback was that fell down, but he just touched him down, and that was cheap. Uh, Andre Carter, at least he played. I'll say that, but it only show up in the stat sheet was a hurry, and that was on a bootleg to him, and so if I guess that counts as a hurry.
Yeah, and not much going there for Andre Carter. In the game and the practices. We talked about it last night a little bit. I think it's been disappointing, and hopefully the combine will be the spot where he can show up.
Any other of the national defenders you want to touch on?
No, I think it's pretty good. I think we hit on a number of them. I can look at my list here, but you know, yeah, I think I mentioned Lonnie Phelps, but he not that I think he gets drafted. I think he's a late addition. It's this kind of special teamer from Kansas, but we saw that last year too with the Kansas edge rusher showing up. I think Lonnie Phelps showed up today and maybe definitely get himself signed to a camp there.
Yeah, he's done enough to at least earn that shot for sure. Let's move on to the American team defense. And his attitude from practice carried over into the game. Aubrey Miller Jr. from Jackson State, the linebacker dude, gave no F's in practice, and that continued today as he was just dropping the hammer down. 7 tackles in this game, 5 solo. I like that spirit that he showed in this game.
He was yelling at his teammates. He looked like a leader on the field. He was talking to guys, moving guys around. I was impressed with that side of it. Sometimes in these All-Star games, who's the leader on the field? Who's getting guys together, rallied up, organized? I wouldn't expect the Jackson State linebacker to be that guy, but Aubrey Miller was.
Shout out to Jason Taylor II from Oklahoma State safety. 6 tackles in this game after only showing up on Thursday. So good effort from him. Daryl Luter Jr. from South Alabama thought he made some nice plays on the ball. Had the one breakup on a pass, 4 tackles, 2 solos for Luter. I think I'm a little higher on his draft range than what I need to be, Shane. Where do you have Daryl Luter right now? Like as far as where do you think his draft capital is right now?
I think it's tough. I would say he's probably an early day 3 player. Maybe can sneak into round 3, but I think we're probably looking at 4th to 5th round. Just
A lot of corners, man. A lot of good.
yeah, a lot of
corners.
corners. What's the upside? I think there's some more upside corners that'll get drafted higher.
Some other guys here that had. Let's see. We had a couple. Isaiah Land had a big sack in the game. We talked about Ali Gay's sack earlier, where he just straight whooped McClendon Curtis. But Isaiah Land, his was more of a coverage sack downfield where he just kept at it, and got the sack. But a good game for him by and large. He had 1.5 tackles for loss with the sack, so he split a tackle for loss with somebody, DJ Dale, I believe. To DJ Dale's credit, who was just absolutely atrocious for the most part in the pass rush one-on-ones. Obviously, that's not his game. No, DJ Dale's a run defender, and it showed in this game. And he was stout, especially when they were in the goal line package. DJ Dale really showed up down there, wreaking havoc. Zach Pickens, South Carolina, 2 tackles, 2 solos for him today as well. Same for Darius Rush, although he didn't get any pass action today and only played a half.
Right, only played in that first half. I'll say I think Isaiah Land's sack was probably the most impressive sack of the game. Just a quick, bend around the edge, and boom, he was right there. So I love seeing something like that where that's an NFL play and you can kind of identify it. But yeah, it was a rough game, I think, for some of the defenders. Just didn't get the playing time or the positioning. Like I said, Darius Rush, wish you could have seen him in the second half, man, made some more noise.
Yeah, Tyreek Stevenson had a couple of good plays too.
Yeah.
I thought in the game, he's definitely going up my board as well. Anybody else on the American team defense you want to talk about?
No, I think that's pretty good. Byron Young from Tennessee had a nice, but he was kind of whipping Blake Freeland for a lot of the game. He pushed him right into Malik Cunningham's face at one point. So I think Byron Young, both Byron Youngs, but the Tennessee Byron Young really impressed me in the game.
Yeah, right. We had some fun with that on the radio broadcast there, the different Byron Youngs. So yeah, 27-10 win for the national team. Game was really never that close. It didn't feel like the American team could never kind of make any hay to get back in it. But I don't know, Shane. I don't know what the record for players that practiced that didn't play in the game is, but I feel like we had to have said it today. As by my count, looking at the participation charts and everything, 33 players that practiced at some point this week did not play in the game. So you really got shortchanged at some roster spots. And it was pretty evenly split. I'll say that. 17 for the national team, 16 for the American team. But I'm just going to go down the list. So like I said, some of these guys could be injury related. I don't know. But some of them, it feels just said, you know what? I've done my work. I'm going home. And I don't really think that's fair. But, that's their decision. If they feel it's right, they're not going to be punished for it by the NFL. So it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme. But just starting on the American team, Braden Willis, fullback tight end. Rashee Rice didn't play. Darius Davis didn't play. Dontavian Wicks, wide receiver, didn't play. Tank Dell, after that's all we talked about for 3 days on Draft Twitter, decides not to play in the game. Warren McClendon, offensive tackle from Georgia. Emil Ekiyor, he got hurt in practice on Thursday. I was able to confirm that. So at least his was, I know, injury related. Dylan Horton, TCU, didn't play. He was at least stressed out on the sidelines. So was Warren McClendon. Cameron Young, Mississippi State. Dorian Williams, linebacker from Tulane. Servassier Dennis, linebacker from Pitt. And D. Winters, linebacker from TCU. You see a trend. The linebacker room got thin there for that American team. Rezjon Wright, which we noticed was out on Thursday's practice, didn't portray the corner from Oregon State. DeMarco Helms, safety from Alabama. And Marte Mapu, who we talked about a lot, didn't play, the safety from Sacramento State. I'm just assuming his was injury related. No way he wasn't playing in this game.
Right. You think you would want to? I mean, it's just a lot of names, a lot of guys. Like some of the linebackers. I'm hoping it's injury related because I don't know why if you're Servassier Dennis, you're not playing in this game, right? It's just rough, and you could see the thinness of some of those some of those positions, and it made a toll on some of those positions for sure.
For the national team, quarterback Jaron Hall, probably the biggest name here. We saw a report go out, I think it was Thursday night, that he was on the flight out on the same plane as I think it was Thor Nystrom from
NBC.
Said, yeah, he's on the plane with me going to Dallas, him and Dontavian Wicks both. I don't know what happened there.
Right.
We know about Roschon Johnson, broke a bone in his hand early in practice. Trey Palmer, wide receiver from Nebraska. Puka Nakua got hurt in the first day of practice. Knew about him. Joey Fisher, the offensive tackle from Shepherd. You said broken knuckle.
Broke a knuckle, yeah.
That sucks. That sounds
Yep.
like it sucks. DeJuan Jones, we kind of knew of his injury status was kind of up in the air, so we didn't expect him to play. Jalen Duncan, the offensive tackle from Maryland, was on the sidelines but did not play. Adetomawa, Adebaworie, it doesn't matter. Anyway, didn't play. Kind of glad because we didn't have to try to butcher that on the radio.
I guess.
Isaiah Foskey. No dice today for the Notre Dame player. Well, he kind of no-showed practice too this week, so why not no-show the game? DeMarvion Overshawn, the linebacker from Texas, doesn't play. Carlton Marshall had back spasms after the first day of practice. Kind of figured he wasn't going to be able to go. Jartavius Martin, corner from Illinois, didn't play. He missed like 2 days of practice. Kedron Smith, corner from Kentucky, didn't play. Mekhi Blackman, the corner from Southern Cal, does not play. Kayvon Merriweather, safety from Iowa, doesn't play. Ronnie Hickman, safety from Ohio State, doesn't play. And J.L. Skinner, safety from Boise State, does not play. By my count here, that means only 2 safeties from the national team suited up, which is why you get, Jacorian Bennett playing safety today.
Without having practiced it, I mean, that's pretty impressive. I can't fault the American team for losing this game. I think, that is a weak room. And where are all these guys? They did not all get hurt. Like, playing the game. So.
Yeah. No way did all of these guys get hurt at practice on Thursday.
Right.
No way. You're lying. They're lying if they say they are. And like I said, it's their decision. It's fine. Like I said, the NFL's not going to punish them by dropping their draft stock or anything like that. We all know that that just doesn't happen anymore. Maybe it used to be a thing. It's not anymore. And so there's really no punishment for it. It just sucks for the Senior Bowl, and not just the Senior Bowl, but other All-Star games. It happened at the Shrine this week. Say Flowers was healthy enough to play. He just didn't want to.
Right.
And whatever. So, it sucks for us. As we watch these guys at practice, we want to see how it translates to the game. We don't get to see that.
Yeah, and look, I recognize the game's probably the least important part from an NFL draft evaluation standpoint. We understand that, but the teams still watch the game. They want to see things like Aubrey Miller hyping up his teammates and being a leader. They want to see how you react to actual pressure in your face. Teams are going to watch that film even if they're not still in Mobile there. I think if a lot of these, day 3 talents that didn't play because they stopped it out because they didn't think it was important or didn't think they needed it, I think it's going to be a mistake. And I think we're going to have guys that did well in the game help themselves. Go back and look at that film. Go back and check out Anthony Johnson more, and Michael Wilson continues the streak. I think it's going to help those players. So I think it was worth doing.
Yeah, I mean, there has never been a single player in the NFL draft's history that because they did something bad in the Senior Bowl game, their draft stock went down. It's never happened. But it can go up, like you said, just based on what you said. What if you've got these 2 guys even now? Something's got to break that, right? So that leadership that you saw from Aubrey Miller today, that might break a tie with him on some team's board, right, and get him drafted, around higher or something like that. You never know. Like I said, I wish these guys that could play would play. If you've got an injury, fine. Like I said, there's no way 33 guys were hurt.
No, I mean, it wasn't. So hopefully it's not a trend. Hopefully next year, we see more guys play, and that, that becomes a focal point for some of these agents and players to want to go out and compete.
Yeah. So any final thoughts from the game, Shane, that we didn't really touch on?
Oh, it's good. Your practice report is up. Mine will be up tomorrow afternoon. So if you want to check out kind of writing, get a little more on some the smaller players that we didn't talk about in the podcast, definitely check that out. Brian, you crushed it this week, man. Always a pleasure hearing from you, being at the practices, talking to players, to Jim Nagy, to being on the radio. So great job. You deserve some rest and get your voice some rest here before Wednesday. I'll be locking in some content here the next couple of days. Give Brian a rest after everything he's been doing.
I think I'm going to sleep in tomorrow, Shane. Can I do that? I'm going to try.
Yes,
I'm going to try, man.
No football for once. You can sleep in.
I don't have a Super Bowl to worry about, I guess. So
exactly. Well, look, it's next week anyway. I'm sure you're gonna watch that flag football game with big eyes for the Pro Bowl.
No, I am not. That's going to do it for this special Senior Bowl wrap-up edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And hit the like button on the videos. Share them out. If you're listening to the audio version of this that will go up within the next 30 minutes or so, give us a 5-star review. Share that out as well. Follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown. And for everything you need, Senior Bowl related, draft related, 7-round mock coming Monday from my man over there, Shane. Go to draftcountdown.com. It's the place to be, man. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for putting up with this scraggle voice the last couple of nights. And, it's been a blast, man. I've had fun. But good night, everybody.